Hi everybody, welcome back to the Quarter Acre Homestead. I'm Matthew.
I'm Titus.
This is Charlie. And this is Faith.
And today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be making hot chocolate bombs from scratch, and we're going to show you how you can do the same. If you haven't heard of hot chocolate bombs, which you probably have, they're super popular on the internet right now. But basically, they are a round sphere of chocolate, and there's a little bit of hot cocoa mix and marshmallows inside. You decorate the outside, so you have this little sphere of chocolate, and you put it into your mug and pour hot water or hot milk over the top, and it melts and opens up, and all the marshmallows float to the top, and you have yourself a nice cup of hot chocolate. So we're going to go ahead and show you what ingredients you need to make these with us, and I'm also going to tell you a shortcut if you don't have these ingredients. So we're going to be making these from scratch, at least the outside shell. So what you will need is 1 cup of cocoa butter. This is the fat from the cocoa beans, and you can order this online on Amazon or Azure Standard. Check the description for links to all the ingredients we're going to be using. You will need 2/3 cup of cocoa powder or cacao powder, and you will need
4 tablespoons of honey. And you will need 1 teaspoon of vanilla.
And you will need molds and some decorations for your hot chocolate bombs.
Okay, so I'm going to talk more about how we put this together. The kids are going to help me help show you how to decorate them later. So for now, I'm going to let them go play. Thanks, guys. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit more about these molds real quickly. These are silicone molds. We got them on Amazon, and you definitely will need some molds like this. Let me just tell you how we melt our chocolate. So with the cocoa butter, what we do is put this in either a double boiler, or what I do is I use just a glass bowl and set it over a saucepan with water in it. So I use about 1 inch of water. I bring that to a simmer, put my bowl of cocoa butter on top, and let this melt. Now when my water is simmering, I'm going to turn it off on the stove because I don't want this cocoa butter to get too hot. Chocolate has what we call temper, and if it gets too hot, it'll lose its temper, and then basically when it dries, it will be soft and it won't harden up at room temperature, and that's a problem for making these cocoa bombs. So I'm going to turn it off when it comes to a simmer, just melt it. The other thing I'm going to do, I'm going to reserve about 1/4 of this cocoa butter off to the side, and after the 3/4 is melted, I will stir that 1/4 back in when it's off of the heat, just to make sure that all of the cocoa butter is tempered. So you can get into a lot more details with that. You can check another video online if you're interested, but basically we want to keep this cocoa butter under or around 95 degrees. So if it gets a little hotter than that, that's okay. Just don't put the 1/4 you reserved back in until it cools down to about 97 degrees. So once this is melted, it's cooled down to about 97 degrees, pour your extra 1/4 of your cocoa butter back in, stir it, and once it's all melted, it's going to cool down a little bit more when you put that 1/4 of cocoa butter back in. And then what I would do is pour that melted cocoa butter into a second glass bowl that's cool, and this just helps the cooling process go a little faster. And I will stir it a little bit more, add my 4 tablespoons honey and my 1 teaspoon vanilla, and then I'm going to add my cocoa powder. So I'm going to want to sift this through a wire sifter or whatever you call those things into my cocoa butter, and I will switch to using a whisk, and I will whisk that all so that it's nice and smooth. So it's a little bit tricky to sweeten your chocolate with honey, but since we're on a homestead, this is actually my honey from my brother's farm, and we just like using honey because it's a little more natural. But water is the enemy of chocolate, and there is water in honey. There's also a little bit of water in vanilla. So by making sure the cocoa butter is pretty cool, under 95 degrees, that water shouldn't be a problem. So we'll mix it with a whisk, and we'll basically keep mixing until it's pretty smooth and is starting to thicken up. Once it starts thickening up, then we will start putting our mixture into our molds. All right, so as you're heating your cocoa butter, you can use like a meat thermometer or a candy thermometer to watch the temperature. And then you want to be stirring it as it cools to help it keep its temper. So I don't really measure the temperature after that 97 degrees and I get my cocoa butter mixed in. I stop watching the temperature and just stir until it starts thickening up. So if you don't have all of these ingredients, the cocoa butter, cocoa powder, honey, vanilla, I'm going to tell you 2 shortcuts you can use. So the easiest one, but maybe not the healthiest, maybe not the best, the easiest one is to just get candy melts. So you can get these at any store and they melt super easy. You don't have to worry about the temperature. They harden nicely. The thing is they don't have cocoa butter in it. It's different vegetable fats and things to make it easy. But if you just want to make cocoa bombs quick and easy, that would be the way to go. The other way that is still a shortcut, but more like real chocolate, would be to get a dark chocolate bar at the store. Make sure it has cocoa butter in it. That is a key. And then chop it up and put it in a bowl and melt it in your microwave. And what you'll want to do is run it for 30 seconds, take it out and stir it, run it for 15 seconds, take it out and stir it, and then continue 15-second intervals until it's just about all melted. You don't want to melt it all the way. And then just stir it until the last little bit melts. And you'll want to double check the temperature. And basically you want to keep it under 90 degrees the whole time for that candy bar to keep its temper. So that's the 2 shortcuts. So whether you use the 2 shortcuts or the cocoa butter and honey like we are, the next step is to wait until it starts getting kind of thick. So see how you can see it's kind of thick as I pour it out of my spoon. And then you want to get a piece, just to double check the temper, get a little piece of parchment paper and pour a little bit on. And then put that in your fridge for 5 minutes. And then when you take it out, you want to be sure it comes off the parchment paper, leaving no residue. And you want to be sure that when you bend it, it snaps. That's what you're looking for, that snap and a shiny color. And then you know it's in temper and it will work for your cocoa bombs. One other tip, if your chocolate does get hard before you're ready, you can put it back on the saucepan with a little bit of warm water in there. You want the warm water to be not too hot, so just be careful. 90 degrees or so. And you can just keep the chocolate on there if you need to keep it liquid. Or just put it on there as needed. Okay, and once it's about like this consistency, we're gonna start filling the molds. So you can use a brush for this. You want to take about a teaspoon, put it in each spot in your mold. So what I find is it starts hardening once I put it in the molds because the molds are cool. So then you'll just take the back of your spoon, or you can use a little brush, some kind of food brush, brush it up the sides, and that'll help it cool even more. So I just go from one to the other. And what you want is you want it to harden up on the sides of the mold. One other thing I should mention, these cocoa bombs are really expensive if you go to buy them at the store. If you buy one, it can be $5 or more. So Making them at home is a great way to save some money. So we're just going to go around and coat all of these. Again, what my goal is to get most of this first layer of chocolate to melt up at the top edge of the mold, because what we're going to end up with is a half sphere, and we're going to basically glue two of these half spheres together. So we want it to be kind of thick up at the top edge of that mold, because that's where it's going to be glued together at. So this first layer, we focus quite a bit on getting it up on that edge. And once this hardens a little bit, we'll do a second teaspoon or so, and we'll fill in the bottom and maybe even thicken up this edge again. So you'll notice some of mine are starting to get a little bit harder, so the chocolate is sticking up towards the top of the mold, which is what I want. So I kind of scrape up from the bottom and then try to go kind of straight up to leave a little bit of a lip at the top. So there's my first layer, and you're going to want, with this little teaspoon, probably maybe 3 spoonfuls to get the chocolate thick enough. So we're going to go ahead and do our second layer. And then we'll do the same kind of thing. Just start spreading it around the edges, which helps it cool. So I'm kind of looking around my edges, making sure they're thick all the way up to the top. Alright, so I'm just finishing up my second layer, and you can see I've thickened up the edges. And now I'm going to start my third layer. So this last one is going to be for the bottom and any other spaces that need filled in. The thing is, you kind of have to have a balance. You don't want it too thick, because then it'll be harder for the hot water to melt it, although it will, but it's nice if it kind of breaks open sooner rather than later. So you don't want it too thick, but you also don't want it so thin that it breaks when you take it out of the mold. So you kind of want a nice balance there. So my third layer is just about hardened. I'm making sure that I'm thick up at the top, making sure I have chocolate all covering the bottom. And so I'll let this harden up a little bit. And if you want to harden it to harden up faster, you can even put this into the fridge, which I will probably do before I take them out, just to make sure that they're extra hard to help them come out of the mold. But these are looking good. Okay, so I put these in the fridge. Probably want them there maybe 8 minutes or so. And then you can start taking them out of the molds. So what I do is kind of just pry the top edge loose first, all the way around. And then I will just push on the bottom, try to be gentle, and pull the mold off and pop it out. And look at that, nice and shiny, perfect half sphere. So I will go ahead and do that to the rest of these. All right, one thing I should mention, when you're taking these out, if you're concerned about possibly getting fingerprints on the chocolate, you'll want to wear some plastic food grade gloves to keep fingerprints off. Okay, so what you'll need next is a plate that's been heated up in the oven. And you'll need some miniature marshmallows. And you'll need some kind of hot cocoa mix. So you could make this yourself. Probably easiest just to get one at the store. So what you'll do is take one of these shells and put it on the plate that's been warmed up in the oven and kind of just twist it a little bit. What we're trying to do is make that surface perfectly flat and also have some melted chocolate to help it glue to the next one. So that looks really nice and even, maybe a little bit more. Okay, and then I'm going to put a second one on that plate while I put hot cocoa mix in this one. So you'll probably want it about 2/3 full. You can really adjust it to your taste, and then you'll take some miniature marshmallows and however many you feel like would be nice in your cup of hot chocolate. Go ahead and put those in. And then take your other half. Be careful, I almost melted that one too much. And go ahead and set one on top of the other. And that fuses closed as that chocolate hardens again. So make sure that's on there straight. And you can just let that harden at room temperature for maybe 5 minutes or so. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that to the rest of them, and then the kids will help us decorate these. Okay, so I just put this chocolate into a cold bowl again, transferred it back to my original bowl because I need it to be a little bit thick. So I've fused all of them together and they're ready to decorate. I'm going to do a few, and then I'm going to have the kids do a few. One other thing I could mention, if you like, you can put some instant coffee in your hot cocoa bomb. That way you can have a coffee flavored hot chocolate, or any other flavors you like. You could put some peppermint in. I actually have crushed candy cane here I am going to put on the top, which will give it some peppermint flavor as well. So you want your chocolate to be kind of thick, and we're going to drizzle it on the top and then decorate. One other thing, if your seams are not perfectly shut all the way, which they should if you used a hot plate and made your surfaces perfectly flat, but if not, you could put some chocolate in a Ziploc, cut the corner out, and pipe some chocolate into those cracks. Or you could even just use a spoon and cover it up with decorations later. Alright, so my chocolate seems a little bit runny, but I'm going to try this. So I'm just going to take some chocolate in my spoon, and I'm going to drizzle it across my hot cocoa bombs a few times. And for this one, I'm going to do peppermint. So I'm just going to take some peppermint pieces, sprinkle it on, and it's okay if it doesn't stick that well because we can use it off the plate for another one later. All right, so there's one. You can decorate however you like, but I like the sprinkles, and the peppermint especially looks nice and Christmassy.
Can I eat the sprinkles on the plate?
Nice.
Yeah. You guys ready for some hot chocolate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Look! Ah!
Nice.
Where are the marshmallows? Oh, they're coming. Look! That's cool.
It exploded.
Yay! Okay.
Be careful, it's hot. Whoa.
Oh, look at that!
All right, that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed the video. Give us a thumbs up and comment if that was useful. And let us know if you try making these cocoa bombs. Let us know if you have any questions. Thanks for watching, and God bless. Well, Happy New Year, and we will see you next time.